What's up, guys, and welcome to the channel. My name is Eric Copeland, and this is the Music of Life. And in today's video, I wanted to just open my heart a little bit and share what I think is an important theme for many of us in the spiritual communities. Maybe you're in a consciousness, you're a seeker, and there's been a lot that's been going on in the world over the past really half a decade. It's crazy. It's been 5 years from the time I'm shooting this video since the pandemic. And I'm just noticing is that there's been more division and difficulties I think that the community has faced than ever. And I've been spending more time getting in my heart, and it's really been helping me to reconnect with something real, to feel some of that magic and joy of life again. That for me I've just been challenged in that area. I don't want to come off as like I got all this like stuff to be sad about. I mean, on the surface, there's much to be grateful for, but I've had my challenges, and I think many of us had, and it's important we don't bypass that stuff. And for myself, I saw how that I was forgetting to include enough time letting the heart do what the heart needs to do. And as I've been revisiting that, it's really been making some shifts. So I would say if you want to stick to this video, the incentive for watching it will be that I think that it will help you to reconnect with a truer part of yourself. If you're someone that's been wanting to feel connected to that sense of joy and peace and safety, and you can resonate with some of the challenges that I shared, that you're going to find the information I'm going to share useful. So let's jump in. So I'm sure you might be familiar with people like Greg Braden. You might have heard things like heart, brain coherence. I'm sure many of you are familiar with Dr. Joe Dispenza and his work. Many of you have listened to people like Neville Goddard, Abraham Hicks, even hello and good day to you, Bashar. Who's the radio for an alien. He's funny. And so you're an open-minded person and you're into consciousness, and that's awesome. I'm someone who has also delved into all that stuff. I've looked into Kabbalah and mysticism, esoteric Christianity, anthroposophy, Rosicrucianism, theosophy, mysticism, practice meditation. I've dabbled a little bit in psychedelics. I'm not really big on those, but I've had my experiences. Breath work, journaling, manifestation techniques, yada, yada, yada. And I think what I want to convey in this video and share with you is that if I had to take everything that I've ever learned and destroy it all, and I could only keep one saving grace, I could only keep one thing out of the whole pile, I had to burn it all, but could only keep one thing. First, I would cry. I would hate burning it all because knowledge is power. I love it. But if I had to keep one thing, it would be the power and the wisdom of the heart. It would be the understanding and the knowledge of knowing that I can relax into the heart and breathe in and through the heart, and that I can resolve the seemingly impossible paradoxes of living in a 3D dualistic world of seeming good and evil, where one is torn between the desire to survive and the desire to thrive, and the tension that you can feel between those two polarities. It's a very real thing. And heart has been the one thing that has liberated me over and over. And when I'm in times where I've forgotten or become chronically stressed out, it's because I've forgotten to turn to it. So that's the one thing I would keep. If you're a seeker, you may have come across concepts like there's the right-hand path of devotion and orthodox following of wisdom, trusting wisdom that's already been, the path that's already been cut, like a walk on the paved path. And then there's the left-hand path of individuation, Jungian psychology, even the occult really goes into this really deep, which is about separation from the norm. It's about the willingness to challenge even sacred or deeply held beliefs, which is something that's, is very liberating. Both those paths have their strengths and their weaknesses. And again, to me, the heart is the Christic alchemical union between those. It's the point, it resolves the tension even between those two paths. How does one be bold and defiant when necessary, and yet still in service of the collective, of the whole, and to have a certainty and the discernment to know when those two things are true at the same time, versus it just being a fear-based reaction to, I don't want to be controlled, or, some kind of false humility saying, that, raising your nose that you're too high and holy to have such evil thoughts or do such evil things. And it's the heart that has the capacity to resolve those things. So the question is, why don't we do it more often? Why is it that we can resist that or forget that? And it's because there's a challenge to entering the heart. It's not always this warm and fluffy and golden and shiny and glowy escape into heaven. The heart is an altar of truth. The heart is only opens for truth. The heart will not receive lies. Lies close the heart. truth opens it. It's just that literal. The heart just will not open to lies. And that means you can't lie to yourself about what you're actually feeling. That means you have to confront both the pain and the inner critic and the jealousy and the guilt and shames and what we so-called negative emotions, or if you want to interpret them as demons, however you want to look at it, and the more angelic or empowering, positive emotions. You don't get to choose that one of those is God and the other isn't. You are looking at polarity, and your job is to be the alchemical. Okay, it's the alchemical wedding. It's your job is to be the resolver of paradox, to stand in the direct middle of those two things and to bring those tensions into the heart. And you can pair that with, breath work or somatic release. This is what really trauma healing and stuff is about. I look at it a lot of times through the chakra system. I see that we have fears, reside in our lower centers, and fears around our whether we fit in with the tribe, fears around whether we have resources and safety, shelter, fears around and shame around things like sexual desires, Mormonism, and creativity, whether it's actually safe to create. It's hard to feel creative when you don't feel safe. And around the ideas of, like in the solar plexus, of comparison and fear-based competition instead of more of the true healthy collaborative type of competition, a fear of showing yourself. You can call it imposter syndrome, these kind of things. These distortions reside in those lower spheres. So it's a blend of both a beautiful, innocent desire that's facing harsh realities of a physical world where you have to confront the reality that it isn't as safe as just being like an innocent child. You got to learn to have some grit. You have to learn skill. And it can pull you, your emotions can pull you, and that affects your willpower. In the esoteric traditions, you have 3 ways that consciousness expresses itself. You have thinking, which is we associate with the mental plane. You have feeling, which is the heart. And you have willing or taking action, which is down in our lower centers. And that willpower, will I follow my dream or not? Will I get into this relationship or not? Will I eat that food or that food? These decisions that you have to make are all acts of will. And if you're driven by unconscious fears and what we like to call traumas, which are just stored negative emotions that haven't been loved enough to let go of because they don't believe that it's safe to, you act from or in reaction to those things. So what isn't integrated in you, in the heart, it distorts the purity of your will. It keeps you locked into a survival state and disconnected from a higher mental plane. And even worse than that, if you're someone who's naturally clairvoyant, which many people are, waking up, you can have spiritual perception mentally or like third eye openings, but it'll be distorted by unresolved and unhealed trauma in the lower centers, and which causes illusion or delusion, it causes fantasy. You go down paths that have elements of truth to them, but they're distorted by your own reactivity and unintegrated shadow. And that can create mental health, depression, anxiety, a lot of things like that. The heart is that middle center of feeling that it knows how to feel truth without the need for thinking and without the need for taking action. It's about the present moment. And whenever you can relax into that present moment, or which can feel like relaxing into the tension and inviting it so the heart can process those emotions, you begin to resolve paradox, where you begin to receive personal insight through relief and letting go of these things, which can feel like handing it over to God or handing it to your higher self or letting it go into the void or just surrendering whatever concept that you have for that. It's about letting that go. And the byproduct of that is our biology is beautifully wired to begin to self-regulate. In the Kabbalistic tree of life, the heart represents beauty with the Archangel Raphael, which has to do with integrating all other aspects of the self and resolving them into a point of where you see the beauty in the darkness and the light at the same time. You can see that the parts of yourself that are afraid, that need to be heard, that they're not trying to harm you, that they are, if you can listen to them, so in a way, confront your demons, embrace them, help them hold hands with the angel, then you learn that they're actually can serve you and help you to guide and direct your life. So it changes your relationship with that darkness. The real challenge when it comes to going into the heart is actually being willing to let go of thinking and let go of the need to take action. And that doesn't mean you're that way all day, but you need to have a practice, whether it's 5 minutes a day or whatever it needs to be, especially if you're in a time where you need to do healing, where you can let go of those other aspects of consciousness and move into the feeling of it. It's really about bringing your conscious. You can look up techniques on heart-brain coherence. The Heart Math Institute is great information to look up. Greg Braden has information on heart-brain coherence. You can just look up on YouTube. He has some heart-brain coherence meditation. I'd recommend checking that out. But the elegance and the simplicity of it doesn't mean it feels comfortable all the time or that it's necessarily easy, like going through and get a hamburger, some fast food place, but it's free and it's sitting right there and it's accessible. And if you can breathe and shut your mind up and sit still and be with everything in the present moment, you can learn that you have the power to become the eye of the storm, even amidst the chaos, and in ways that are so nuanced and unique and individualized for you that you will feel both liberated in that individual egoic sense, free to explore and be who you are, while at the same time also being able to not be so rebellious against things that maybe are established wisdom or systems that aren't out to get you. Just your old self perceived it that way. Only the heart can help you to discern that, to know what truth and safety and freedom feels like, so that it's no longer a purely intellectual pursuit or you're just in reactivity through the lower desires. In anthroposophy, Rudolf Steiner talked about the purification of will. And I think that's what he meant, was the fact that there's no shame in the lower desires, but without purification, which is done through the heart, things become distorted and your life becomes a reflection of that distortion. And we all, being human, are distorted. We all are dealing with our shadow. We all have these things, no matter who we are. And finally, to kind of close this up, if I could personify the heart and what your heart's desire for you is, and what I think that your heart wants you to know, it's this truth. It's that all feelings, all of them, whether dark or light, whether painful or joyful, when they are fully received into the heart without judgment, you will always return to self-love, return to the true self, and you will awaken the higher faculties of mind without distortion. It really is a unification of that liberation and higher wisdom coming together and seeing that there's no argument. There really isn't a polarity there in the heart. It doesn't exist. And I think when I think of in biblical and Christianity and Jesus talking about the eye of the needle, entering the kingdom of heaven, I think that's the eye of the needle. It's that surrender at the center of the heart center where that paradox is resolved. And it's something that's so deeply personal, like I've said before, that it allows you to live a nuanced life where you're not depending and needing validation, nor do you have so much fear that you can't step out or color outside the lines of what society says you should or shouldn't be doing. And I think that's beautiful. In my experience, there's some days that are certainly easier than others. Resistance does love to come up, and the head can kind of tell you there's better uses of your time. And then when you do it, you realize that the head needs to kind of listen to the divine feminine a little bit, ask for directions. Imagine that. And I say particularly to those who are the seekers out there and into the spirituality and consciousness, is that if you don't have the wisdom of the heart guiding your life, you're going to be very susceptible to fall into false light ideas. You can easily confuse excitement for enlightenment, or you can find yourself running back to religion because your old traumas come up and you're going to be so desperate for safety that you don't feel like you can think for yourself. And you're going to want to run back to the very cage that you spent so much time getting out of. Only the heart knows, I'm telling you. And from a geeky science level, I find fascinating is the heart has several thousand, I think it's around 40,000 what are called sensory neurites, or basically brain cells or neurons that reside at the upper levels on the upper part of the half of the heart, of the physical heart. The heart has a two-way communication through the vagus nerve in such a way that whenever wisdom is received through the heart, that it bypasses the thinking mind, the rational mind. And you could think it almost like it tunes the rational mind into cosmic wisdom through a state of feeling and nervous system regulation that helps you to see clearly, think clearly. It's very, very powerful. Do not underestimate the value of the heart. If you work on chakras, obviously they're all important, but you can become very imbalanced if you if you limit your focus, if you pick favorites, other than I would say the heart is probably a solid favorite because it represents harmony, but you'll naturally notice that if you're working with the heart. In fact, what I'll often do in my practice, I've noticed, is I'm in my heart and then I might bring stuff from the root, and I feel like there's a connection between the two, and I'll bring something from the root up into the heart to process, from the sacral up into the heart, and kind of go back and forth. But it's like coming to the heart is like, I don't want to get up from that meditation until I've done some releasing at that level, because then I just feel like my days are better. I notice that my flow states come back and I start getting ideas for YouTube videos. I just feel more calm and grounded. And it's like, okay, if I can just do this every day, I can take one day at a time and life ain't so bad. So with that, we'll close out, and just remember, the heart is the eye of the storm. So don't get hung up in all the drama that goes on in the world. Yes, it's real. Yes, it's painful. And it doesn't mean you have to avoid it, but you have the capacity to pace yourself and integrate, take your own personal pains. It's really the meaning that you're giving to things is what you want to bring into the heart. The heart will help you see. And it's that meaning that when offered to a higher power or to cosmic wisdom, you can find resolution. You can see that there's a higher perspective, but that's an I that exists here, not here. And I think it's important we keep that in perspective as a spiritual community. And that's all I have for today, and I want to thank you for watching. If you have any comments on this video, or particularly if you have some other subject, there's just something I said that you would love to see a deeper dive on, I really would value your feedback on this. I've dabbled in YouTube for like 10 years, and for the past 2, I've started making a lot more videos, and I took a little break too because I've had my own feeling. If I'm going to teach spiritual wisdom and talk about spiritual stuff, I want to be in my heart. And I had my own stuff to kind of deal with. And so I guess out of my own sense of integrity and responsibility, I just haven't wanted to be prolific for the sake of being prolific. I wanted to be authentic. So I've been experimenting with different formats. And I do like kind of a casual style like this, and to share just more in a flow state with maybe some ideas that I've been working on, in the mornings when I'm in my meditations and working on stuff. But it would be exciting to me, and I would really enjoy to hear any feedback and any ideas that you have for it. And of course, if you want to see more content from me, just what do you do on YouTube these days? You thumb it up, and what do people say? You smash the like button, or you smash that subscribe button, and don't forget to hit the bell notification. Otherwise, you may not get my videos. I think that's what you're supposed to say. All right, that's it. I'm Eric Copeland. This is the Music of Life, and I'll see you guys next time. Go make some music in your life.